I'm Lin-Manuel Miranda, and you're listening to Hard Knock Life.
Well, it's the NOC in full color, you see me? The Hard Knock Life, comics, movies, and TV, yeah. Pop culture with a different
Welcome to Hard Knock Life. I am Keith Chow.
I'm Britney Monet.
Hi, I'm Dominic Ma.
It's nice to have the crew together once again. This Memorial Day weekend talking about Star Wars, because this is a very Star Wars heavy episode for various reasons.
It's Star Wars Celebration. We should say it, timestamp it.
Yes.
Whenever day you're listening to this, while we're recording it, it's Star Wars Celebration.
In Anaheim, and we're also celebrating the 45th anniversary of actual Star Wars. Star Wars launched 45 years ago this week.
For sure.
It also is the launch of Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney Plus, which streamed on Friday. It actually streamed a little bit early on Thursday. I actually caught it Thursday night because it came out midnight Eastern time. So instead of having us folks wait till 3 a.m. to watch Disney Plus, you guys on the West Coast got to watch it at 9 o'clock, if you did or not. But
Yeah, that's one of the nice things of being in California.
I was just a little annoyed because, it was originally supposed to come out on May 25th, my birthday,
That's right.
and Star Wars' birthday, and then they're like, okay, they're pushing it to May 27th, and then they release it, basically on the 26th, was like the day after our birthday. Like, that's a little rude.
Oh, they missed with the numbering.
I was a little like, oh, okay.
yeah, I understand. If you're going to release it early, why not release it when you were supposed to? Right?
Yeah, that's my, thing. But I think it's because, Hayden and Ewan weren't actually at Celebration until, they were at, I think they got a day of Disneyland actually on, the 25th. And then I think they were actually at Celebration on the 26th. So I think that's why they moved it that way, because everyone got to watch it with them if they were there.
Well, and I know they screened it for the attendees
Yes.
at Celebration. So everyone at Celebration got to see it way earlier than everybody else.
And watched it with, Ewan and Hayden, which was really cool.
Right.
But,
Right.
yeah, I was a little
Folks,
damn.
it was a long time ago, okay? Long time ago.
In a galaxy far, far away.
I might be silly today. Can I say one thing about Star Wars Celebration before we start on serious stuff?
Yeah.
Willow fans rejoice. Your time has come. I'm being a little facetious here, but I'm enjoying the idea that they're making a Willow series.
Well, here's the thing. I was actually admonishing you guys for not subscribing to our YouTube channel. If you had, you would see that our managing editor, Laura Sirkle, is on the ground at Star Wars Celebration interviewing all of the stars, literally every single one of the stars who come by the red carpet. And they got to talk to the entire cast of Willow, and we have that video on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thenerdsofcolor. I know you were being facetious. I don't know if you were a fan of the Willow movie back in the 80s.
Well, I just mean it was one of those movies I saw back in the 80s, and it is a fantasy movie. And my sense is it's not the one...
It's a movie.
It's not the one that everyone was super hankering for a remake of. But now, just in these days when everything is getting remade, why not? And someone out there, this is their favorite news ever.
Well, for sure. And there are Willow fans. I mean, if there wasn't, they probably wouldn't do this show.
Yeah, no, I actually...
I never saw Willow, so I really don't know. I know it's part of Lucasfilm. I just never saw it, so I have no idea.
I honestly was making fun of Willow a little bit. Sorry, Willow's fine. I was doing a gag on anticipation and fandom. Glad just
and yet
Willow fans.
Yeah.
We've waited so long. Anyway,
everything has its fandom, though, right?
I'm done with that rant.
So, on that note, I did want to acknowledge, for the last couple weeks, there's been just horrible news, and it's tough to talk about pop culture and the silliness of Jedis and lightsabers and superheroes when such tragedy occurs in the real world, and we kind of have to compartmentalize. So I did want to acknowledge the mass shootings in the last 10 days that happened in Buffalo and then happened, of course, in Uvalde, Texas. And it's, trying to compartmentalize is tough when the same genre fiction you're trying to consume also reminds you of the terribleness of the world. So, we talked about Obi-Wan Kenobi dropping this week. Of course, Stranger Things returned. And in both of these huge streaming Memorial Day weekend, escapism series, both of them start with fairly triggering scenes considering what happened in Texas this week. In fact, even Stranger Things on Netflix has a trigger warning comes up before the episode starts. And, we don't want to necessarily spoil those scenes, but just knowing that, like, that's why, for me, it's tough to kind of, like, divorce the real world from the fantasy world, when the fantasy world is depicting these things. And even the shooter in Buffalo, like, streamed his shit on Twitch, and it's like the blurry line between fantasy and reality is, unfortunately, tragically...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we want them to take action on these things, and yet I do think we have to... We do have to separate them, at least to the extent that, do we want to police video games and action movies?
And that's not what I'm saying at all. Right.
Because, I mean, we also have to be responsible for it. We have to say, yes, the culture of making guns and shooting looks cool, that's something about that definitely is in action movies and video games, which America makes tons of. They're not responsible, but
absolutely
we should admit that they're wrapped up in that culture. The images that we see that end up making some people go nuts and do horrible acts of mass gun violence. That said, I can keep those things separate in my mind.
No, I agree with Dom. Like, there is a line of, like, separation, but it was very just interesting that both of these shows that were, one was filmed like over a year ago. As we know, Stranger Things was actually filmed more like 2 years ago, even though they were trying to say it was just a year ago.
I don't know. Have you seen those kids? Those kids all look like grown-ass men and women, and they don't look like they're 14 anymore.
Well, because there was a big, like, year in between filming, like, season 3 and 4, and then I feel like they had to stop production too because of COVID, so they had already started filming season 4 a little bit before COVID happened. So I think, like, they probably even filmed that, like, probably maybe when they first started, and then had to put it on hold. So it's just very crazy that there are two productions that, because Kenobi definitely happened probably around when maybe started filming, when probably Stranger Things were already back in production. So, because it was like, what, 6 months ago, less than 6 months ago they were filming Kenobi. So it was just very weird that, two stories that were even...
have nothing to do with it if you would, on the surface.
On the surface, they have nothing to do with it, but, both open with, something. But the only reason I do feel like the one for, because I haven't finished Stranger Things, but for Kenobi is because there's actually a younger version of a character in that opening scene.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else picked up on that, but I did.
Definitely. I think that's the running theory on, before we dive into spoilers, on one of the main characters in the show. But yeah, and absolutely. And we mentioned before we started recording that, like, if we were going to acknowledge every tragic thing in the world on this, light and fluffy pop culture bullshit podcast, then we would just might as well do a news podcast, right? Because it's always going to be, there's always terrible things happening constantly. And yeah, there's just choices you have to make when you're talking about the stuff that we talk about, and in some situations those things overlap. Former host on the show, Sean Taylor, talks a lot about how, fandom can be used for good in a lot of cases, but fandom can also be weaponized, and that's kind of how Trump rose to power, and the nihilistic Reddit 4chaners are using the language of fandom to be weaponized, and so yeah, it's definitely a heavy topic. But of course, we want to just acknowledge and we feel for the parents of those children, and hope and wish our fucking leaders would do something about it, because they have it in their power to do something about it. And it's not the creators, it's not the artists, it's the fucking politicians who are too scared to do shit about it. So, right. Anyway, so that's, I just wanted to acknowledge that before we dive into what's going on in Anaheim and at Star Wars Celebration. We're going to save the Obi-Wan stuff for later, because I think, we definitely want to dive deep into the first 2 episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Before we get to that, I did want to talk about everything else that's happening at Celebration. None of us are there. We do have crew of the Nerds of Color representing at Celebration. Like I said, check out our YouTube channel for all of that content, as well as our Twitter page. Lauren, Lola, and Laura Siriku are live tweeting panels from Celebration as well. So before we get into it, I just want to ask you guys, what's been your favorite reveal or news bit or interview, whatever it is? What's been your favorite thing to come out of Celebration? Let's start with you, Brittany. What's been the best thing to come out of Celebration for you?
Just pretty much the hint that we're getting a live action Ezra Bridger. I'm very excited for that. I think it is Mina Musoud
From Aladdin.
from Aladdin, and it's perfect because Ezra was already like Star Wars Aladdin, so it makes sense to cast Aladdin again, because he is literally like the best part of the Aladdin movie, which obviously he should be, but I just feel like he doesn't always get enough credit because the movie kind of itself was just like But yeah, I'm really excited to see him as Ezra, and honestly, I don't know, I really like Rebels a lot, so I'm very excited to see most of them, though I know some people are kind of upset about a certain character, which I agree.
well, yeah, we can talk about that.
But yeah.
Dominic, this is kind of our nerd popping section. We're just going to do it special Star Wars Celebration style. What's been your favorite thing to come out of Celebration so far?
I think Ahsoka series looks pretty cool. I'm gonna keep calling her Asuka, by the way, just because. I mean, we can get into it if you want. How most of the cool characters in Star Wars have names borrowed from various East Asian language word parts. So I was always in the habit of calling her Asuka because of like the character in Neon Genesis.
We talked about this last week too. It had Toshiro Mifune been Obi-Wan Kenobi, perhaps her name would be Asuka now.
Well, yeah, and okay, just to go on a tangent, you notice in Star Wars every cool character has a Chinese or Japanese inspired name, except the character is actually played by Asians. But they always give sort of a weird name, like that guy Ken Logan played in
The Force Awakens.
Episode 7, which is his name was like General Statura or something.
Right.
Like that's one of the worst Star Wars names ever. Might as well call him like General, worried about his height guy. Anyway, all that said, and he's saying his name her name flexibly or not, Asuka. I really want to say Asuka. Anyway, Ahsoka.
Which is also
Awesome.
Japanesey, because it sounds
Same,
like
yes,
when you say,
also-
"Oh, Ahsoka," like I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, anything other than
looks
how
like
to
a good
pronounce
idea.
Ahsoka that you're that's nerd popper from Celebration?
No, I mean that is right. That is canon, but the root of it, anyway. Blah blah blah. Looks cool.
Yeah.
Even though we didn't see the thing because they showed
Right.
It's just for people who are there, which is good. They should keep doing that in conventions, so people have a reason to go to conventions.
I'll say this: one of my favorite aspects of Star Wars Celebration, yes, there are things that are still kind of like held behind closed doors for folks who are at the event, but I do love the fact that they essentially stream everything at Star Wars Celebration on YouTube. You can watch all of the panels, all of the interviews, all of even the convention floor from the comfort of your own home on YouTube. There's like a 6-hour stream every day of what's happening at Celebration, which is not, you can't say that for Comic-Con or the other big conventions. D23 doesn't do that. The closest thing would be like Fandom for DC, which is all virtual. So I do appreciate that Lucasfilm and Star Wars feels that it's good for the folks who can't make it to wherever Celebration is that particular year, that they can follow along on YouTube. So I appreciate that.
Were there any cool action figures or stuff?
Yeah,
Or
Hasbro
what is your
has
most
been
exciting?
Yeah, I mean, for me, other than the fact that it's just streamed, I think the Ahsoka news has been the biggest thing to come out of Celebration, except for Andor, which I want to actually dedicate a whole segment to. But yeah, I'm psyched for Ahsoka. I think we knew from at least when she shows up on Mandalorian that we knew the Ahsoka series was going to be essentially a sequel to Rebels, because she's talking about Admiral Thrawn, and the way they end up Rebels, it kind of like just fits perfectly into the timeline that this would be picking up those events, finding Ezra, finding Thrawn, confirming that they're going to be on the Ghost, that there's going to be Hera.
We saw her, the backside of her, but yes,
The back of it, right. So yeah, and I've been, for the last 2-3 years, actively campaigning for my girl Tia Sircar, who voiced Sabine, to come back and play her in live action. And I'm sure Natasha Liu Bordizzo, who was rumored several months ago and was confirmed at Celebration this weekend, will be a fine Sabine Wren. I just personally feel like Tia should have had given the opportunity to play her. My thing is, if you're going to recast animated characters with actors, that's totally fine. Like, the Grand Inquisitor bullshit that fans are getting mad that they didn't bring back Jason Isaacs or that he looks different from the animation. Like, after watching the show, it's kind of like, just shut up, man. Let Rupert Friend's fine. Like, you don't have to, But, I kind of wish they didn't, at the same time, I kind of wish they didn't bring back Katie Sackhoff, because I feel like that set a precedent. Like, if Katie Sackhoff can come back and play Bo-Katan, why can't the other voice actors, who are, like, they're not just quote-unquote voice actors, not that voice acting is bad, right? Like, these are actors who've been on camera, We talked about Freddie Prinze a couple weeks ago. Tia Sircar, she was fucking Vicky on The Good Place. Like, it's not like she's a nobody.
Yeah, and I think they're bringing back the voice actor for Admiral Thrawn, Lars, I can't remember his last name, but, like, he's apparently gonna be Thrawn in live action, too, so, yeah. Yeah,
so, like, and, and I get it, with Rosario, she was a fan cast, and, I know a lot of people were upset Ashley Eckstein didn't get brought back as Ahsoka, because, particularly because she had voiced her for so long. And, again, recast is fine. I just feel like you just set a precedent when you brought back Katie Sackhoff. And Tia Sircar should have been afforded the same.
But, I mean, Katie Sackhoff is a big name in the sci-fi world, okay?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Sure.
There's some sort of cool logic going on there.
Yeah.
And also, it's case by case. Some voice actors don't want to necessarily have to dress up and, like, throw a lightsaber around,
Yeah.
They're comfortable. Let's not, like, assume that.
Well, but I think the other layer of the Sircar thing is that it can be viewed as colorist that a brown Asian, a South Asian actress gets recast for a lighter skinned mixed race Asian actress. And your point about, like, do they even want to, I've talked to Tia said, yeah, I would have totally been Sabine if they asked me. It's like, they didn't even ask her, so.
Yeah, you talked to her, so they didn't even ask her.
Yeah, so, like, that's the thing, as, and not bitterly. She's not like, I wish they would have asked me, like, when asked, like, did they approach you to play Sabine? And, like, no, but if they did, I would totally, like, I'll shave my head to be Sabine. And they didn't. So, like, again, it's there are a lot of layers to the Tia Sircar thing that's a little bit different, I think, from the Bo-Katan one, because, like, there's talk about, well, the ages don't match, and, I think Sabine would be in her 30s if the timeline is right.
Probably.
By the time by after Return of the Jedi, she's a teenager during the beginning of the rebellion, so she would be in her 30s for this show.
Yeah.
And I know Tia's a little bit older, but, like, she's not that much. It's nothing like she looks like an old,
Yeah.
Talking about, and age is nothing but a number in Star Wars, because look at fucking Tamir Morrison playing Boba Fett, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I do want to talk on the Ahsoka thing real quick. I think that she's coded a person of color anyways to me, so I feel like bringing Ashley into the role is kind of like, even though she voiced her.
I just meant because she voiced her for so
I get what
long,
you're saying, but I feel like in that case is like, I always view her as a woman of color, even not just because her skin is like orange, but like she just is. There's certain characters that we know are coded as like people of color, even if they're a certain alien race. Like, we just know, and so that's why I feel like bringing Ashley into the role is just kind of, even though she's the right voice, quote unquote, she just isn't to me the right physical actress to be her. So it's no offense to Ashley, I just see her as a woman of color.
Yeah, no, I agree. We had that sense about Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Even though, again, she is an alien, and, so there's flexibility, but yeah, that we had that idea about her.
And the same thing is, like, no offense to Natasha, like, I'm sure she'll be fine, but again, there is a East Asian privileged layer to the casting on top of just bringing back a voice actor, right? Like, you couldn't find another...
Sure is, Brother Chow.
Yeah, South Asian actress to play her too. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just think that... Not that, like, the Asianness of the Wrens was vague anyway, because you had Tia Sircar playing Sabine, but then her family, the Wren clan, were all clearly coded East Asian when she visited her home. So it's just like, whatever,
And again, I'm sorry, everyone in Star Wars is lightly coded East Asian.
Which is true.
Because of their freaking names.
Yeah,
okay?
that's true,
I'm just going to mention that every time there's an opportunity to. It's an East Asian American story, basically.
Yeah.
I mean that, sorry, not to get weird, but I mean, it's the original material draws from all this Asian stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we all know that.
Which is not a secret, right? It just took them 40 years to cast any Asian people.
Should not be controversial. Yes, that was one disconnect.
Yeah.
But
which is also Shiro Mifune's fault, which we discovered, right? Had Mifune said yes, the multiverse would have been different, is all. The other big thing I think that came out of celebration that we have to talk about is the Andor trailer. We actually got footage from a Star Wars property, and it was the Andor trailer. We've been waiting for this for a long time. It's going to be streaming this August. What were your first impressions from the Andor trailer?
I'm excited. He was one of my favorite characters from Rogue One, so I'm glad that he's one of the people who got the spinoff. I don't know, it looks fun. I'm very interested in kind of trying to figure out the, like, blue Imperial suit things. What's that about? I don't remember if they were in Rogue One or not. I don't know. I'm just really excited. It looks fun. So we'll see.
Dominic, any Andor feelings? I mean, you liked Rogue One, right?
Oh, I love Rogue One. I mean, I realize we talk about Star Wars, all the episodes in all different contexts, but if I'm being real, I still have the most love for the original trilogy and Rogue One. I mean, I'm just say it like that. Those 4 movies I have actual love for. So, not, qualified, complex love. and for that reason, I love to see Andor again. She's a great character. I've always liked Diego Luna, and there's a lot of backstory is a terrible word because we overuse backstory, but there were a lot of implied ideas of what Andor used to do. That was being like a scary assassin and saboteur for the rebellion while they're building up. That would be a really interesting story to get into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think with, where they're going, the tone and the visuals from the trailer is what really stood out to me. That, like, I think what we appreciate about the original trilogy is just how grimy everything was, and that's, because the Empire had taken over and the shininess of the Republic was replaced by the kind of this dirty griminess. And they're really leading into, like, his family being refugees and all that stuff, which is great. One of the best parts of Rogue One is kind of its like political undertones and its real world like equivalents, right? Bringing that aspect into the Star Wars universe, and this is going to seemingly lead into that. So, saying this too about like the visuals of that Andor trailer and even the visuals in Obi-Wan, like I feel like one thing that sets the Star Wars shows apart from even the Marvel shows is they look like movies. Like, I don't know if it's just because of the volume or like, the technology that they use there. And then, Marvel's still relying too much on green screens and Atlanta parking lots, whereas they have this like, warehouse that they're doing everything in Star Wars. But like, there is no drop off from the Star Wars movies to the Star Wars series. Like, they look like they just stepped out of a movie screen. And like and we'll talk about Obi-Wan in a minute, but like the biggest flex of Obi-Wan is that it's previously on was like a recap of the 3 of the most expensive movies of all time.
Yes.
So like and so like but there was no drop off. It looks like Ewan McGregor is back in Tunisia when he's really in Manhattan Beach in a warehouse. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
How they figure that out is amazing.
I mean, I think you're mostly right. I think it like shows through a little bit in the second episode.
But I think compared like to the Marvel show, like the Marvel shows do feel a little kind of like, and maybe that's just the cinema. Like my issue with like the cinematography writ large of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But like, I don't know, it just doesn't look as dynamic as what we're getting with the Star Wars stuff. But that's that's neither here nor there.
No, I think a lot of people agree. Even if like people who didn't really like Book of Boba Fett, they said it actually looks like there was money behind like the cinematography and making sure things look good versus like the Marvel shows, where for the most part the Marvel shows kind of fall flat compared to the movies. Even when the movies still, like we all know, there could be better cinematography and visuals involved, but like the shows really fall flat. So either like, I don't know if Disney has more faith in Lucasfilm as a whole than they do is like, even though yes, Star Wars is bringing in a lot of money, I don't know if they still just have more faith in like Star Wars because it's probably the biggest fandom. So I feel like they're throwing more money at Star Wars.
And I wonder if it's the money thing. I almost feel like it might be cheaper to do Star Wars just because like they're just using the volume. It's not like they're going on location, right? Like everything is fucking
some stuff I'm like, okay, I've seen that woods somewhere.
Oh right,
LA.
yeah. There's some like forest stuff. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure some of them is like different like parts in Southern California that looks more deserty too.
We talked about even with the CW, like some of those superhero shows are kind of like showing their age because they just look like the money is not there, And I just feel like perhaps it's a money thing. Perhaps it is they just pump a lot of money into the Star Wars franchise. But like, I don't know. I just feel like with the technology, with the volume, like one thing I learned watching the Batman 4K disc this week with all the special features is that, which I wasn't aware when I saw the movie in theaters, is that half that movie was shot in their own version of the volume in London. Like the whole Batmobile chase scene was shot in with LED screens. They weren't really driving in, rainy streets of London. It was all like gimbals and screens, and it doesn't look like that at all. It looks like they were really there. And what I'm saying is that like someone just needs to build the volume down in Atlanta, and so the Marvel movies can take advantage of that.
But what I think is, I think partially maybe what you're responding to is that Star Wars has a visual language developed for it being essentially a movie first. That was the first thing we got. It was a filmic experience. It was not a book, not a comic book. So sometimes, no matter who the filmmaker is, they do certain shots. Let's say a wide shot of Tatooine, or big space cruiser flies overhead. There are certain shots that make us recognize Star Wars and make us feel like we're in the world, and that's because Lucas established this visual language so well. Now in the Marvel movies, it's sort of a different challenge because it's sort of like you're recreating panels from a comic book, and based on how successfully you do that, it feels like you're really in it, or it doesn't. And one could argue maybe the Russo brothers are the best at actually doing that, storyboarding their shots into being like the comic book panel, so you get that kind of charge of it. I'm just saying there are a few tricks you can play as a director of a Star Wars thing where you harken back to that visual language, and you get some of the beautiful shots that are in the opening of Obi-Wan and Mandalorian because they just remind you of something. Because they're composed similarly. You know what I'm saying? That might be kind of... I think that's something we're responding to. But,
I know. I think that might be it. That might be right. Because, and as someone who, sorry, Brittany, I don't read the books. I don't read the comics. Okay. So there is to me, it is all like the visual, right? And I think there is a language that I'm responding to that's not necessarily like translating from one medium to another, because you're just continuing the visual language already established 45 years ago. So on that note, let's take a break and come back on the other side and dig into episodes 1 and 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi, because there's a lot to talk about. Just forewarning, there will be spoilers, so if you have not streamed Obi-Wan yet, get to doing it, because there's a lot of things that were not in the trailer that we're going to talk about when we get into Obi-Wan Kenobi. So see you on the other side. Guess what? Goalie Nutrition is sponsoring Hard Knock Life, and you can go to goalie.com to buy apple cider vinegar gummies, they're ashwagandha gummies, superfruit gummies, and super greens gummies, and you get 10% off plus free shipping if you use the code HARDKNOCK at goalie.com. This is honestly, I've been taking the goalie gummies now for a couple weeks, and I have to say, they're tasty and they're good for you. Have you guys been enjoying the goalie gummies?
I really like them. They're yummy, but it's a nice to add to my routine of already I normally take just straight vitamin C, so it's nice to have extra supplements.
For a long time, people have praised the benefits of apple cider vinegar, and as someone who's had to drink straight apple cider vinegar sometimes when I'm not feeling well, or I have some joint pain, and your mom is like, drink some apple cider vinegar. It's not the most appetizing home remedy, let's just say.
Right.
It tastes horrible.
So, the apple cider part is ooh, does it taste like apple cider? It is no, it tastes like vinegar. But ACV is very good for you. And the fact that Goalie has been able to put the ACV into these tasty little gummies made with pectin and fruit peels, which make them vegan, which is cool. So if you're vegan, you can still rock these gummies, because everyone knows gummies are usually made out of gelatin and nasty shit. These are made out of complete non-GMO, gelatin-free, gluten-free, vegan ingredients, and you can get the benefits, all of the benefits of apple cider vinegar, taking these tasty, delicious, convenient gummies. So go to goalie.com and use the code HARDKNOCK, that's HARDNOC, just like the podcast you're listening to. Get 10% off your purchase of Goalie products and free shipping.
It's a much better delivery device for that apple cider vinegar.
Yeah.
These Goalie gummies are great. You get it, and it's a delicious little candy. And I've been enjoying the Superfruits one. I did feel kind of refreshed after taking a few of those.
Yeah, no, but I'm loving them so far, and they're definitely tasty. If you just want tasty gummies, at least just eat them for the yumminess.
Yeah. So go to goalie.com, use the code HARDKNOCK, HARDNOC, get 10% off your purchase and free shipping at goalie.com with the code HARDKNOCK. Hard Knock Life is being sponsored by Athletic Greens. I want to talk to you about Athletic Greens. With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. Basically all the things. One of the best things about Athletic Greens is that it's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. It also contains less than 1 gram of sugar and no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, and it still tastes good. Athletic Greens uses the best of the best products based on the latest science with constant product iterations and third-party testing. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day, that's it. No need for a million different pills or supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is partnering with Hard Knock Media to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/emerging. That's athleticgreens.com/emerging to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. And we're back. Ewan McGregor is back. Hayden Christensen is back. And our friends from the prequel trilogy are back. You know, I know, Dominic, you're not a big fan of the prequel trilogy, but I'll say this. As someone who's wasn't a fan 20 years ago, who has, I wouldn't say I've become a fan, but I appreciate them a little bit more now than I did back in 1999. Mm-hmm. That previously on got me hyped for the prequels. Like, the way it was cut, the way it was edited. Like, I was like, holy shit, those prequels were pretty dope.
Oh yeah, fully agree.
They were.
That previously on was like the best previously on ever, because one thing, they had like that nice ambient music cue playing through the whole thing, so it felt dreamy, and yeah, it was sort of like a YouTube supercut of all those things, and yeah, it hit me right there.
Yeah. How about you, Brittany? What was your, like, when it said a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and cuts to like the recap of all 3 episodes? How did your nostalgic heart feel?
I was really excited. It was because I've always, like I said, liked the original trilogy because that's the first thing my dad showed me as a kid. But I don't know, there was something magical about seeing it again. And I mean, even though I've watched like episode 2 and 3 all the time, like it was fun watching the recap and seeing Hayden again and even like, you know, Padme. Like, I don't know, it was very exciting. I was like, okay, this is like the best way to start off like a new like Star Wars series that's right in between that like sweet spot. It was great. It was fun.
Yeah. And so it cuts from that to, you know, we're still in that Revenge of the Sith era, because it cuts to Coruscant and we see a bunch of younglings training. We talked about this scene earlier in the non-spoilery part of the podcast. So essentially what ends up happening, the show starts off after the awesome prequel recap with the kind of like, it's another Order 66 scene. One of the things that these, you know, Disney Plus shows are giving us are like other angles of Order 66. And, you know, in Mandalorian, we get to see from Grogu's point of view. I think the Bad Batch trailer they just dropped shows some more Order 66 scenes. So, like, we get to see, like, how did the Empire turn against the Jedi. But this one was probably the most effective Order 66 scene that I've ever seen. Because we see these younglings training, and then the stormtroopers or the clone troopers barge in, and their teacher, which apparently is a Jedi from the comics that I'm not familiar with. But anyway, she's, you know, deflecting their laser beams until she, you know, is able to save the kids, but she ends up dying herself. And it was just like really kind of tense, action-packed opening. Again, with all of the context of the real world, really making it even more harrowing.
And also, it's a great long tracking shot. I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't have those in Star Wars all the time. Obviously, it's augmented with CG and everything, but it's great. Like, starts small in the dance, pulls around, they're fighting, leads them through the corridors, and then opens up to this big, wide battle scene reminiscent of the one in Attack of the Clones. Just like a big, wide thing.
Revenge of the Sith.
And that is like freaking cinematic.
Yeah,
you know,
100%
craftsmanship at work.
Deborah Chow like flexing in the very opening scenes of the episode.
You want a big thing like that to open up this story. Anyway,
and I think and you alluded to this earlier, Brittany, one of the younglings is a little black girl who most signs point to probably Reva, one of the Inquisitors that we'll meet later in the episode.
Okay, yeah.
Because
about that.
if you're not familiar with like the animated series lore, the Grand Inquisitor and his minions, they hunt Jedi, which is apparent in the show. But there are also many of them, and I think Obi-Wan says it in episode 2. Many of them are ex-Jedi who've turned to the dark side to hunt the remaining Jedi. And so we cut from there.
That's mostly explored in which animated series?
The Rebels is
Rebels.
the main one that you have Inquisitors. And so it cuts from there to, we meet the Inquisitors. But like the most important thing, of course, is we finally meet sad Obi-Wan. And I think both episodes, my favorite like stuff was seeing like how Obi-Wan lives now. Like there was just something moving about his like daily existence, cutting whale sashimi and feeding his horse and watching over Luke, trying to buy Luke a rare collectible
toy.
Skyhopper. The toy that we see in the first Star Wars movie. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was a toy from Obi-Wan, from Uncle Ben.
Connectivity and B, wow, you really like this kid and have a lot of time on your hands. You're making like
Was he making it? I thought the Jawa said it was a rare collectible. It wasn't a model kit, was it? Maybe it was a model kit.
No, I thought I may have missed a detail there. I thought he was made it out of parts that the Jawa had stolen from previously.
It's possible. That's
parts
possible
of like
too. That could work.
Parts of like a generator or air conditioning system or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
how great is it to see Ewan back as Obi-Wan though, Brittany?
It's so good. In a way, it feels like he never left, and it's kind of like sad because now you're seeing like a sad and kind of broken down Obi-Wan or Ben. He was just so good. He was like him and Hayden were always to me like the best parts of like the prequel trilogy. So to like just have both of them back and I don't know. There's that scene where he's like just sitting kind of on I think it's even before he even like is looking at Luke. He's just sitting on the edge of like the cave and. Yeah. He's eating, and it also kind of reminded me of Rey a little bit.
Exactly what Rey does in that first movie.
Even the instant meal that he cooks.
Instant stew thing, and he's just kind of sitting there and just like I don't know. It's just it's very sad, but he does it so. Even is just so good. I love it.
Yeah,
I think that was a clever way to actually draw all the three trilogies together, was to have that sort of a Rey flavor in there.
If only she were Rey Kenobi and not Rey Palpatine.
That's what still makes me so mad. She should have been Rey Kenobi somehow.
Like, Satine had a secret baby that no one knew about. Mm-hmm. Satine is Bo-Katan's sister in Clone Wars, who Obi-Wan was in love with but never acted on because he's a Jedi. Mm-hmm. But did he? And, Rey would have been his kid, And, of course, they named the character Satine after Moulin Rouge. So if I was on the red carpet and I had a chance to talk to Jon Favreau or any of the creators, Deborah Chow. Oh, I actually did talk to Deborah Chow. I should have asked her this. Can we get a scene of a flashback with Satine and cast Nicole Kidman? Because that would be really cool. Have them do a Bantha love medley on top of a fake Bantha.
Yes, I'm familiar with your Moulin Rouge Star Wars mashup fantasy, which is a good one in the world of possible mashups. But let's get to it. So the big swerve in Obi-Wan that no one knew going into the show.
Okay, I knew. I just didn't tell you guys because
how did you know?
Spoil it for you because it leaked online.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, and I didn't want to spoil it for you guys. I'm like, you spoiled
I know. I had no idea. I had
so it wasn't
zero idea.
Officially known, right?
Right.
It wasn't like part of the official teaser material.
No,
how did it leak? What leaked? Was it like a script or was it like?
It was a leak that's what the show was actually gonna be about.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, and I didn't want to say anything to you guys and spoil it. So.
Well, no, because like when they cut to Alderaan, that was like my holy shit moment because I was like, "We're gonna see Baby Leia? We're gonna see Baby Leia." It was like the Baby Yoda thing, right? Like, and she's clearly the Baby Yoda of Obi-Wan. And they were able to keep Baby Yoda much more secret, apparently, than Baby Leia. Because I think the reason Grogu took off so much is that no one knew at the end of Episode 1 of Mandalorian that was what the show was going to be about. And then you see this little Baby Yoda, and it like became this instant meme on the internet. Maybe it's harder when you have an actual human being.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're similar formulas. Cute little person. But again, Grogu doesn't talk, and and Leia's like
A little
it's
whippersnapper.
it's just like a full character, and that's interesting. That helps the surprise be more than just a surprise, but sort of like a welcome thing.
Yeah,
Like,
and
this
she's
is
a
gonna be
great like mini Carrie Fisher too. I think they cast such a great
that's the
actress.
first thing I thought was, I was like after that scene when she has with Brea, the first scene was just her and Brea talking. I was like, oh, Carrie Fisher would be so proud of this little girl. Yeah.
And what's also interesting is that part of the backstory of the creation of the show is that when they did their first round of scripts, it actually got scrapped because Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni said, "Oh, that's a little bit too similar to Mandalorian." Because I think the original concept of Obi-Wan Kenobi was Obi-Wan would take little baby Luke on an adventure, and then that was while they were still breaking Mandalorian. And then Filoni and Favreau were like, actually, our show is going to be like Lone Wolf and Cub, but with a little baby Yoda. And so they had to go back to the drawing board. And that's when Deborah Chow said, let's add Hayden Christensen and Darth Vader into the mix. So the initial concept of Obi-Wan had no Darth Vader and was supposed to be he and baby Luke on adventures. Mm-hmm. So that the fact that they retooled that, it's a little interesting that they're still doing it seemingly like a Lone Wolf and Cub, but they just replaced baby Luke with baby Leia.
Well, I don't. Again, it's a formula, and it is Lone Wolf and Cub, and Star Wars does its formulas over and over again. I wouldn't get too hung up on that. It's one of those "it ain't broke, don't fix it" kind of things. It's great.
So, are you of the fan mind? Because I know one of the things that came out when it was revealed that Leia was going to be in the show is that a lot of fans feel like it breaks continuity because Leia seemingly doesn't know who Obi-Wan Kenobi is in A New Hope. I mean, she's aware of him, but she doesn't. She says, you served my father in the Clone Wars, not you saved me when I was a little girl that one time.
Like
remember?
To rant about that.
Go ahead, please.
Is it my turn to rant, or who goes first on that?
You go first.
I read some review about whether it breaks canon or not. It does not break canon. In fact, it explores a necessary part of canon that we haven't thought about before. You, Keith, talked last week about unanswered questions in Star Wars. The one about what was the part where Obi-Wan thought that he could get Vader back again. Maybe we'll see that show. Another unanswered question that I didn't realize was an unanswered question until recently was, why does Leia love Ben so much? Why does Leia trust him? Why is she sending this very important R2 unit on the most important mission in the galaxy to someone that she's never met? No. My theory is, and I realize there are different ways of looking at it, but
why does she name her kid Ben, right?
Wait, if they've never met, it's just like some story her father told her about this great guy who lives on Tatooine. It makes so much more sense to me that Leia's confidence in Ben in that first movie came out of this kind of thing happening when they're young, and when she really got to see, oh, he's that guy who rescued me from kidnapping. That's a solid dude. That's the guy I'm going to send this R2 unit to. So that's my feeling of why it actually helps canon, doesn't break canon at all. However, reasonable minds can differ.
Brittany, did you want to say that?
I actually agree with Dom. It makes sense. Because, like you said, why would she, name her kid Ben? And then, like Dom said, why would you send, a droid with very sensitive information to someone you kind of don't really know but heard good things of? Like, it doesn't. And Leia's smart. We know Leia's
told
smart.
me about this guy.
Yeah, like
he was so great in the Clone Wars.
like, we know Leia's smart, so it's just like she wouldn't just send it to anybody, even just because it's someone her dad was cool with. Like, Leia is smarter than that. So obviously there just had to have been somehow meeting, but people always want to assume they didn't meet just for, I don't know, whatever reasons. But
and like we said last week about how this whole series is kind of like going to illuminate that line in Return of the Jedi where Vader says Obi-Wan once believed the same as you did, right? It also kind of like makes the scene in A New Hope have a different resonance, because when Luke first rescues Leia from the, what you're awfully short for a stormtrooper scene, he says, I'm here with Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ben Kenobi, and she's like, Ben Kenobi, and then she like gets up and again, like there is a familiarity that she has with Ben, and that I think at least these two episodes make more apparent. And when you rewatch A New Hope, it gives it a different kind of resonance than it did previous.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you guys, because again, I get in trouble because I haven't watched all the animated series. Like that issue has never come up before, as in like whether Leia and Obi-Wan Kenobi met up, like between episode 3 and episode 4.
We never
Like,
see them. They never.
This is our first like dealing with that.
The only time Obi-Wan
Right?
Obi-Wan and Leia both independently show up on Rebels, but in different episodes and disconnected from the
Okay.
main story. Like Obi-Wan, like one of the cool things in Rebels is that you see Obi-Wan and Darth Maul have their final confrontation, which is
Yeah,
really
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And we talked about a couple weeks ago, like there is an episode with Leia, but Leia felt older than she probably should be. But there's Rebels takes place roughly 5 years after the events of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Right. So there's a little futzing with Leia's age there, I guess.
Yeah, so she would have been like 15 in Rebels, which that's the crazy thing is like she's 19 in A New Hope, and you don't realize that as you're watching it that she and Luke are teenagers essentially. Here's another wild thing: like everyone makes fun of the fact that like Ewan McGregor has to age into Alec Guinness. When Alec Guinness filmed Star Wars, do you know how old he was? Take a guess.
77. Just 'cause
63.
Okay.
Alec Guinness, 1977, was 63. Do you know how old Ewan is?
53.
51. So he's 10 years younger than Alec Guinness in A New Hope. So, like, one, we definitely age a lot better now than we did back then. There was these memes going around the last few weeks. I don't know if you saw, like, people showing, like, the Jeffersons, and they were all, like, in their 30s and 40s. Like Archie Bunker was, like, 38. And you're like, damn, what was wrong with people in the 70s?
Oh, come on. Maybe we just, like, accepted growing older more gracefully than we do now, too. But that's a whole other topic.
Sure. But so, like, it's just, to me, it's just
Alec
funny
Guinness
that...
is a babe. I'm just going to put it. He was a babe then. I'm just going to put it out there.
No, it's just great that, like, Ewan is literally 10 years younger than he's supposed to... Then like, he's the perfect age for this time period of Obi-Wan's life.
Yeah, again, going to the thing of Ewan McGregor is so destined to be in Star Wars, it's not even funny. With his cousin, who was Wedge or whatever.
Right, his uncle, right. Yeah.
Right?
So episode 1 is essentially, like, you think it's going one direction, then it swerves and it goes to Alderaan, and it's about him needing to rescue Leia.
From Flea, from Red Hot Chili Peppers.
From Flea, from Needles, from Back to the Future.
Wasn't that... What?
Well, you didn't recognize Flea?
I know, I just said, what, wait, was he in Back to the Future?
Yeah, he was Needles in Back to the Future. He was the guy who fires Marty in the future.
Oh, really? But
And
that
he was
before
one
he
of...
was, like, famous Flea, right?
Well, yeah, he's famous for being Flea, yeah.
Right, okay, yeah. I know. Yeah, that was a weird moment. Okay, so whatever. And Kenobi, it was like, that guy looks kind of like Flea. Oh, and actually is Flea. Go figure.
And I love that Flea is already, like, alien looking enough that they don't have to do any... He's just can be Flea, you know?
Right,
Yeah.
he has that thing. Right. One of those otherworldly humans, yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe, like, a not super competent bunch of kidnappers, you can say.
Right.
There are scary moments to this show, but those kidnappers are not it, because they, like, chase around that girl for, like, a long time. Just, like, can't
And yet
catch up
they
to this
murk
little
the,
girl.
like,
Anyway.
palace guard, like, easily, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The palace guard had no chance, and yet they couldn't even
Yeah.
catch a little 10-year-old girl. Oh, before we move on to episode 2, we didn't talk about the Inquisitors. Because, again, we mentioned earlier, like, there was a lot of consternation around particularly the Grand Inquisitor, and apparently Sung Kang is confirmed to be playing the fifth brother, who was an Inquisitor in Rebels too. So like they're inhabiting animated roles, playing them a little bit differently than they were in Rebels, which is interesting. Reva is an all new character. What was your impression of the Inquisitors overall, as someone who's familiar with them, Brittany?
I think it was a really good depiction. I just wonder if isn't the Grand Inquisitor that we know from Rebels, as we know what happens in episode 2. So I'm very curious as to someone who's coming in, someone's going to come in to replace him. But I don't know, I really liked everyone. I had to tell my mom, hey, that's one of the lawyers from Power, because we watch Power.
Wait, Sung Kang's in Power?
Sung Kang is
Yeah.
in Power?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He's one of the, and I was like, yeah, that's the dude from Power and the Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. So
Still
I don't know,
disappointed
really-
he's not playing a character named Han, but I think I've made that joke literally 20,000 times on this
Yes,
podcast.
again, and it goes against the Asian casting rule in Star Wars. If you're Asian, you don't get the Asian name. If you're not Asian, you get the Asian name.
Right.
That's
And his name is Fifth Brother, which is not Asian or anything. Speaking
but it's
of
a
Asian,
famous Chinese story. But anyway,
that's true. Let me ask you, Dominic, is Sung giving some weird Nemoidian Asian accent in his
I'm
performance.
not sure about the voice Sung is doing.
It's a little weird, right?
He's doing some kind of hissy, evil villain voice, and I'm not gonna try to racially code it too much because
no, but
down that way lies madness.
Right.
I'm just saying, I was paying attention to people doing different voices, and I was just thinking of Star Wars voices in general, how, everyone with the red lightsaber has to put on a certain kind of evil, I'm the Sith or Inquisitor voice.
But I feel like he's like struggling pronouncing his L's, is what I'm saying. Like there's a little bit of that.
I'm glad you brought it up because I wasn't going to, but there is.
You noticed it though, right?
There is that reading of it. It's a little classically evil samurai voice.
Yeah, I just picked up on it. It was like I felt like I was, watching the Nemoidians at the beginning of Phantom Menace again. Just for a hot second there when... Right.
It's not quite as weird as that,
right.
but it's in the same area.
It's a little there.
And again, I'm not familiar with how the Inquisitors are set up, so I don't really know, I don't know if he was, trying to echo something that was in one of the shows or something.
I don't know if, does the fifth brother talk in Rebel? I don't remember.
I don't even
And also it's a weird contrast
honestly.
with her scene... Unfortunately, it's a weird contrast with his scenes with Third Sister, because Third Sister is, I think, a very interesting and compelling character. And... Well, she's doing something a little different from the villains we've seen before, and I guess the other two Inquisitors seem more just in the mode of being the evil guy. I don't know if that's a fair thing to say.
What the biggest difference is Moses isn't using a British accent, and it's weird that a villain doesn't have a British accent in Star Wars.
I just think because her story is marrying Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, basically, because she's obviously out for Obi-Wan Kenobi very, very deeply, just kind of like Ben was very much a bit about getting Luke and blames Luke for where he is in life, basically. And I feel like she's doing the same with Obi-Wan, and I don't know, but I feel like he was supposed to be maybe teaching the Padawan class at the time, and for some reason, maybe he was late, and then obviously all the Order 66 broke out and all that. I feel like he was supposed to be there, or maybe she was supposed to be his next...
It's more than she just wants to impress Vader, right?
Yeah.
There's some specific beef with Obi-Wan.
And she keeps saying
I'm guessing.
Both of them have the same vendetta, a similar vendetta against,
Which I think, again, a little bit of the consternation is it's talking about breaking continuity, is that she clearly knows Anakin is Vader. She's the one who tells Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan doesn't know that Anakin is Vader. Which, let me consult our resident prequel expert. Doesn't Obi-Wan watch the video the hologram in which Palpatine says, "Rise, Lord Vader"? So, wouldn't he know that, the Lord Vader who's, killing people around the galaxy is Anakin? Because he sees this hologram when Anakin turns, right?
Wait, he knows. Sorry, I think it's he knows he turned into Lord Vader. He doesn't know that he survived the lightsaber. He thought he killed him.
Then how is he Lord? But how is he Lord?
He was called Lord Vader before he got the suit on.
Yeah.
I think maybe also the one who's one is probably self-isolating when you think about it. Kenobi probably isn't talking to a lot
not
of
reading the
people.
news.
Yeah, he's not reading the news, not talking about people. So, and then if he's not really listening to what people are saying, he probably doesn't know anything that, there is someone named Lord Vader out who's mainly working with the Inquisitors too. So
at this point, right.
Yeah, so he doesn't really know too much, obviously.
That's true. That's a good point, because I think what people forget is that Vader wasn't ruling the galaxy in the original trilogy. He was Tarkin's lapdog in the first movie. He's not the main guy on the Death Star even in Episode 4. Tarkin's is the main
lapdog might be putting it a little strongly,
that's what,
but okay.
I think isn't that what Leia calls him? But so I think it's true that perhaps Vader is not as feared or well known in the galaxy, because he's just kind of a behind the scenes guy at that point in particular, 10 years before A New Hope. So that makes sense that he's Obi-Wan knows that Anakin is Vader, but doesn't know Vader is still alive.
Yeah,
because Anakin becomes Vader before he...
Right, that's my point. Because
right? Am I messing that up?
No,
in my
he
head?
does, and that's why Obi-Wan knows that he's Vader.
He just doesn't have the suit on.
He just doesn't know. Right, he just doesn't know he's never seen Anakin in the what we know as Darth Vader.
Yeah,
right? The robot suit.
But he thinks that he, like you said, he killed him when they were on Mustafar after the battle. He doesn't know he survived, and then if he's been hiding and trying to one, keep his head down. He's not going to be asking about Inquisitors and
Right.
all of that. So he probably doesn't know. And then if he never even told Owen that, you know, he became Lord Vader, like if Owen doesn't really know that detail quite yet, then he's also not going to talk to Kenobi about a Lord Vader. Like, he's not going to bring it up, really. Because they also don't seem to talk much and get along.
They don't like each
well.
other.
They don't like each other. So it's very clear that, like, he just doesn't know. And I really loved the way they did that whole, like, scene at the end, too, of the episode. It was great.
When it smash cuts to Vader in the back of the tank. Yeah, that was pretty cool. And you
Yeah.
hear the breathing.
Yes.
You get to see Hayden look all gnarly.
Oh, I know. It was so cool.
He's not going to be that dreamy boy of the early
okay.
2000s. Okay, I just wanna-
It's okay. They'll still have a
let's all be
flashback,
prepared
probably.
for that.
They'll probably do a flashback to Clone Wars because there was a set photo of him actually using Anakin's lightsaber. So I'm pretty sure we're gonna get one like flashback with the old.
I would love to see that. And I think you might have mentioned this, Brittany. I would love to see them kind of recreate a Clone Wars scene in
think
live
they
action. We would be remiss to not mention another famous cameo in episode 2 of Obi-Wan. And that's Kumail Nanjiani's con man Jedi. What do we think of his... You know, all he needs now is a Disney Prince role, and he'll have the Disney Triple Crown. He'll take the Disney Triple Crown away from Ming-Na, because he's already a Marvel superhero. Now he's a Star Wars character. Someone needs to cast him as like Prince Charming in something, and then he'll have the Disney crown.
I liked it, and he actually does have an Asian-ish sounding name. His name is like Haja Estray or
Yeah.
Estray or something like
That's
that.
right.
Yeah, it's
So-
not a hard and fast rule. Because there are a lot of languages in Asia. I was focusing on the East Asian part of it.
I had to bring that up since you were talking about that. But no,
No, you're right. He's not named Fred.
I liked him, and I liked the part with him and Riva, or at the end when he's like, "What is my bounty now? 1 million? Who million? I don't know. He's so good.
I've read some complaints that he's like just playing himself, but you know, you cast Kumail Nanjiani, you're going to want Kumail Nanjiani in your movie, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I do hope he comes back in because I have questions about that. Like he's this hustler, and I get that, and that's a cool character. And then he's like, "Oh no, but we're gonna help you out in this time of need." I feel like there's more story there.
Yeah, like is he
Otherwise
really
he's-
helping? Like the kid he saved, you know, was he really force sensitive, or like? Because it is a little weird, like especially in this time period. Why would you want to pretend to be a Jedi when that's like the worst thing? You don't want to like people to know you're a Jedi. And you're walking around like I'm a Jedi. And I mean, maybe because the Inquisitor's like, that motherfucker ain't a Jedi, and so they leave him alone.
I
you know?
mean, they probably can tell super fast. And
Yeah.
then she also did the similar thing that Kylo Ren does to Reva, when she was like
Reads his-
checking. And she's,
yeah.
she's like, "You're no Jedi." Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited, and I can't wait to see exactly why Reva is so mad at Kenobi and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, let's end on that. Like only 4 episodes
good
left.
question.
What are you most anticipating the remainder of Obi-Wan? And of course we're going to talk about it week to week, but
Yeah, just obviously I want to see the big final fight between the two, you know, Vader and Kenobi. But I don't know, I'm really excited to see where Riva's storyline goes and whatnot, and just to see more of Little Leia. I really love Little Leia. Like I said, one of my favorite Star Wars books is the Leia Princess of Alderaan, which is about her actually being, she's like 13 or 14 in the book, and she's actually being like crowned the Princess of Alderaan, and it also talks about her actually doing Junior Senate and all of that. So that's a really good book. So it was nice to kind of see like her a little bit before that book.
does that book explain how the royal family works on Alderaan? Like, is Bail king of Alderaan? Like, why is she a princess?
Technically, yeah, because Brea's queen.
So they are king and
They
queen.
say queen? Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I didn't realize that.
yeah, and it explains a lot of like just how she still like kind of feels like, you know, she doesn't really deserve the title because she's not like actually an Organa,
Not really an Organa, yeah.
and things like that. But it's a really good book. It's by Claudia Gray, who's written some of like I think some of the best Star Wars books. If you're looking for Star Wars books to read,
That's good. I'm glad you're that because I did need some disambiguating, like the princess title and stuff, and like what, you know, versus being a senator or.
But I guess in Star Wars it's like a precedent, right? Like, because royalty also serves in the Senate because Amidala was a senator while she was also queen. Well, that's
Yeah.
not true, because when she was senator, didn't she give up the queen role because someone else was
Yes.
queen when she was senator? So she wasn't
Yeah.
simultaneously queen and senator, I guess.
Right, but they may have different rules on different planets.
Well, that's true. That's Naboo versus
senator
Alderaan.
eligibility, unlike our rules.
Last thing I'll say too about Alderaan, it does seeing how Alderaanian society works and just seeing the planet. Like, I don't think we've ever seen Alderaan in live action. You know, that was really cool too, because it's just, you know, it's a planet that blows up in A New Hope, and there's no like context to that planet blowing. And now knowing what was there, it does make that, again, rewatching A New Hope after all of these prequel series is going to be a different experience, I think. I have not rewatched it since, so I'm actually looking forward to rewatching it after Obi-Wan. Last question about Obi-Wan. Do we feel like, after watching these first 2 episodes, that it makes sense to make it a series, or do you think it should have been a movie, which is what it was originally supposed to be?
I think the series works just because then you get more time to flesh out certain things and spend more times with things. With a movie, you kind of either have to condense or decide if you want to do it as a part 2 type of movie.
Right.
Which I think it works better as a series.
Yeah, I agree with that. Dominic, any thoughts on the series versus movie?
I still like to think that the best Star Wars movies are ensemble pieces. I think these TV series are geared towards focusing on individual character, and I think that's a fine plan.
All right. Well, with that, we're gonna and we did our nerd pop, and we kind of did a special nerd popping at the beginning of
forgot to mention that they are doing a Star Wars show with Jude Law called Skeleton Crew. I love Jude Law, so I just wanted to drop that.
Yeah, that which is billed as like Goonies in space. It's kind of like an Amblin-esque show set in the Star Wars universe with Jude Law as the lead. I mean, there's a lot of news that's still dropping as we're recording.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be some things that we'll not cover and we'll have to cover next week. But until then, Brittany Monet, how can people find you on the internet?
Find me on Twitter and Instagram at Hi Brittany Monet, and you can also check out at Naomi Podcast for the backlog of Black Lightning Podcast, as well as obviously the Naomi Podcast and the Lituation Room.
Awesome. Dominic, how can people find you on the internet?
I'm Dominic Ma, Dom Ma on Instagram or Twitter, DOMMAH.
I am on Twitter at @TheRealChow, _real_Chow, and I'm on Instagram at RealKeithChow. Follow the Nerds of Color at the Nerds of Color, and go to Hard Knock Media to find this and all of the podcasts in the Hard Knock family. Give us a rating and review if you do. Subscribe to our videos at youtube.com/the Nerds of Color, and support us on Patreon at patreon.com/the Nerds of Color. Also, brought back for Star Wars Celebration the Rally for Rose t-shirt at our TeePublic store. So go find our TeePublic store at our website at thenerdofcolor.org and get yourself a Rose Tico shirt before that gets taken down again. But until next time,
Anakin Skywalker's alive.
Willow fans, your time has come.
you are so bad.
Skywalker is alive.